Yes, dear children, let us move further in thermodynamics. We saw the first law of thermodynamics, which states that the energy of an isolated system is constant. And you have also learnt about the law of conservation of energy, which is again the first law of thermodynamics. Energy is neither created nor destroyed, it can only be conserved. Okay. Now, what is the limitation of first law of thermodynamics? Main limitation is that it does not tell you the direction of spontaneity of a particular reaction, whether the reaction moves in the forward direction on its own or it is more spontaneous in the backward direction. It does not tell anything about the direction of spontaneity. Okay, now what is meant by spontaneous? Spontaneous means anything that takes place on its own. That is called as spontaneous. Like somebody is coming to hit you, then immediately you wink your eye, is it not? That is a spontaneous reaction. You call it as an involuntary reaction, right? So spontaneous is something similar to that, right? Now let us see some examples of spontaneous processes. Dissolution of sugar in water. You put sugar in water or salt in water, it automatically dissolves after a few minutes. Then you keep ice at room temperature on the table, it will melt. You and me cannot stop it from melting, right? Then evaporation of water in an open vessel. You keep some water in a cup, leave it outside throughout the night. The next morning you will find nothing or very little water in it. Then flow of water down a hill. Water always flows down the hill. It does not go up the hill, is it not? This is a very natural thing. You know it very well. Then cooling down of a cup of hot tea or coffee. If you keep a cup of hot tea or coffee outside for some time, naturally that will become cold after some time. Same way, nitric oxide will get oxidized to nitrogen dioxide. This is again a spontaneous process. This I have shown you in the practical experiment, the test for nitrite, is it not? I showed you a nitrite salt. A pinch of salt is treated with dilute sulfuric acid and you see reddish brown fumes. Reddish brown fumes is due to NO2, I said. But what is actually coming out is NO, which will spontaneously react with the atmospheric oxygen, giving rise to NO2, which is seen as reddish brown fumes, right? So these are all spontaneous processes. You and me do not do anything, it takes place on its own. Now there are certain processes which take place on initiation. You have to initiate the reaction, then only it will take place. Like you have a candle does not burn on its own, is it not? You light it, only then it burns. Then, paper catches fire. But unless you bring a burning matchstick nearby, it will not catch fire. Same way, calcium carbonate. If you heat it, it will get converted to calcium oxide and carbon dioxide. Same way, you know very well that methane is a very good fuel and it burns in oxygen, provided it is ignited, is it not? So unless you ignite, it will not burn. Your natural gas is methane. Okay, it's a very good fuel. You have this PNG, piped natural gas, what we are using in the kitchen these days, right? So these are all certain reactions which take place on initiation, but they are also spontaneous only. Once you initiate, then the reaction will go on itself. Is that clear? Just a initial kick you have to give, the rest it will take place on its own. Now there are a few processes which are non-spontaneous. Now what are non-spontaneous processes? You cannot expect water to flow up the hill. You can't expect heat from a cold body to move towards a hot body. And you can't expect diffusion of gas from where it is at a low pressure to a high pressure. So these things you cannot expect, is it not? So what is the driving force which is responsible for the spontaneity of a process? What makes a process spontaneous? What is the driving force behind it? Yes, the driving force behind a spontaneous process is Number one, tendency to attain minimum energy. Number two, tendency to attain maximum randomness. Now let us see one by one. Tendency to attain minimum energy. Like, see, in the normal state, when you are having your body temperature, you are free to do anything and everything, is it not? You are very stable. You are capable enough to do anything like jump or run or go about doing anything. Is that clear? So you are maintaining normal temperature means you are able to do everything. But suppose you are having fever, your body temperature rises, is it not? Now, just because your body temperature rises, would you think that you are having more energy if your body temperature rises? No. If your body temperature rises, you become all the more uncomfortable. You are unable to do things, is it not? You feel weak. You want to sleep. You are having body pain. You are not able to eat what you want. Is that clear? So everything is uncomfortable when you are having fever. This is what you call it as fever, when your body temperature rises. So when you have fever, what you do, you take a medicine and you want the temperature of your body to come down to normal state, because you want to enjoy the freedom when you are in normal body temperature, isn't it? You have freedom of action, freedom of movement, everything, right? What does it show? It shows that under normal body temperature, your body is at a low energy state. Exactly, you have great potential, but your body is at a minimum energy level. Exactly, it doesn't mean that you don't have the potential. Potential is a different thing. Energy state of a body is a different thing. If the body is in a minimum energy state, it has all the potential to do everything. Is that clear? But if the body is at a high energy state, then the body is uncomfortable to do anything and everything. Right? So tendency to attain minimum energy means tendency to attain more stability, more freedom. Is that clear? More comfortable. All that is gained by attaining minimum energy. Now the next point is tendency to attain maximum randomness. Now we will see about randomness a little later, just for the time being. Just understand what is randomness. Randomness is nothing but measure of disorder in a system. Okay? How much ever disorder is there in a system, that is called randomness. Now, how maximum randomness can be the tendency? Okay, let us see. Just wait. Now, you know very well that water flows down the hill, because flowing water is supposed to have minimum energy. Water falling from top, it has great energy, and it attains a minimum energy state when it is flowing across in plains. Okay. Same way, heat flows from hot region to cold region. Okay. Why? Because the heat travels from a position where it is very hot to where it is cold. Is that clear? Travel of heat from hot to cold region. Where there is minimum heat content, the heat will transfer itself towards that area. Now I have given a few examples. Nitrogen plus hydrogen giving you ammonia, carbon plus oxygen CO2, hydrogen plus half oxygen gives you water, C4H10 is butane, butane is undergoing combustion to give you CO2 and water. Now in all the four equations, what do you find? Energy is released. In the first equation, 92.2 kilojoule, then 393.5, 285.8 and 2658. So this many kilojoules of heat are released. So what does it tell you? That they are all exothermic reactions. Okay. And how do you express that in terms of delta H? You write it as minus 92.2 minus 393.5. So you denote the value with a negative sign to indicate that the reaction is exothermic. Okay. Now 92.2 kilojoule of energy is released. What does it mean? It means that the excess energy that was associated with the reactants has come out. Okay, so the energy state of NH3 is much less than that of nitrogen and hydrogen. That's what it shows. The extra energy possessed by the reactants have come out. Same way, the extra energy, that is 393.5 kilojoule of extra energy was there with carbon and oxygen, that has come out when CO2 was formed. Same way, 285.8 extra kilojoule of energy was there with hydrogen and oxygen, and when it turned into water, that came out. So water is in a minimum energy state, CO2 is at a minimum energy state. Is that clear? So these reactions are said to be exothermic because energy is released. Okay. Now where is that energy coming from? The energy is coming from the reactants which were possessing extra energy in them. That extra energy of the reactants had come out. So the products are associated with minimum energy. Okay. So tendency to attain minimum energy is shown in all the above equations, is it not? So in general, what you can say, exothermic reactions are spontaneous. Okay, you can say that exothermic reactions are spontaneous because the product is associated with minimum energy. You said tendency to attain minimum energy is one of the factor for driving force, right? So you expect that all these are exothermic reactions and they are spontaneous. But then think of this melting of ice. Solid ice is getting converted into liquid water. Okay, you keep ice outside, obviously it will melt, is it not? We don't do anything. It is just absorbing the heat from the surroundings and getting melted. And the reaction is endothermic. Delta H naught fusion. Fusion means melting. Okay, that is around 6 kilojoule. And it is positive. Delta H is positive. Change in enthalpy is positive. Positive means I told you it is an endothermic reaction. Same way, dissolution of ammonium chloride in water is again an endothermic reaction which is associated with plus 15.1 kilojoule. But then, if you put a pinch of NH4Cl in water, it will automatically dissolve. It will automatically ionize into NH4 plus and Cl minus. And you can test the presence of NH4 plus in the medium. Yes? So dissolution of ammonium chloride is a spontaneous process, but it is an endothermic process. Now these are contradicting statements, is it not? You say that they are spontaneous, but they are endothermic. Okay, so what does it show finally? It shows that only delta H being negative need not be spontaneous. Delta H positive reactions may also be spontaneous. So finally, we come to a conclusion that this delta H alone cannot decide the spontaneity of a process. Right? That means there is something more which, when added to delta H value, can help you to decide the spontaneity of a process. Now, what is that extra thing that is added to this? That is called entropy. Okay. Now we will see about entropy now.